Hey, what's up, guys? Another knife for review. This is the K-Bar BK2, heavily requested knife. I have a long list of knives you guys constantly ask. If I get multiple messages or comments on a specific knife that people want to see reviewed and used and stuff, I'll keep that in mind, and eventually, I'll look for those particular knives. But anyway, this is one of those that's on the list of everyone wants to see it. It's extremely popular. It's very common. A lot of people have these. I know a lot of people customize them. A lot of people love this knife but don't like the handles. We'll talk about that in the review here, my opinions on it. But anyway, as far as the Becker knife and tool line, this is one of the smaller models, 5 1/4 inch blade, 1095 Crow Van. We'll talk about that a little bit in this review. A lot of people don't know what that means. But anyway, it's an awesome little fixed blade. There are some things I don't like about it, but I can see why it's extremely popular, and I'm excited to have finally gotten my hands on one and use it a bunch for this review. All right, so here's the knife. You can see it in the sheath. I want to talk about the sheath system really quick. I don't mind this type of sheath where basically you have a kydex on the blade. I think the look of it is very nice. The slots cut out obviously gives you lots of options. There's lots of eyelets here. Visually, it's very appealing for me, especially like a drop-down style where you have the kydex for the blade and guard area, but then you have a nylon or some kind of a flexible material for the actual mounting. The problem I have with these is that it always relies on that button snap. This is kind of an older design, and there's nothing wrong with it if done right. And it does work fantastic, all right? In carrying this, it holds very nicely. There's nothing wrong with it. The quality materials are very good. It's not falling apart or anything. But again, you're relying on that button. The day that that button fails and no longer snaps or breaks on you, then the whole knife, especially an extremely heavy one like this, has no stability at all. All right, so although I do like this system, that is one hit I can say on it, is that all the weight is on this button, and the sheath in its current form, how you get it when you get the knife, is completely useless to you in carrying if that button fails. All right, so just something to note. But of course today we have lots of options out there. You can get tech locks and all kinds of mounting options. And what I like about this particular sheath is because they have the eyelets and the slots here, you do have a lot of leeway in how you can mount this knife. So if this does fail, or if you just simply don't like it, obviously you can remove that and use any kind of system that you prefer. It's not a very long knife, but because it is a drop down, having these slots, you could put a larger webbing in here that would attach to your upper thigh, which would keep it from bobbing around. I know some people, especially this type of sheath where you have just a retention strap across the handle, even though this might be secure on your belt, it's gonna flop around on your leg when you walk. It's gonna boop, 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 and some people don't like that. All right, that's why you might put a piece of cordage towards the bottom eyelets here, wrap it around the thigh. But more specifically, if you're using something like 550 and you tie it tight so it doesn't, bop around, it could kind of cut the circulation off your leg a little bit, or just be simply uncomfortable. So you can use a wider webbing, all right, some kind of nylon that would fit in there. So that's nice. I just like that. It's just something, it's an observation I made in carrying this knife and using it, and I do like that. So it's kind of hit and miss. I do love this, but at the same time I don't like it because I know, once it fails, if it does eventually fail, which it will if you use your knife all the time, you're kind of a bummer there, and you have to switch to a different system. But anyway, the idea is that it's not going to fail, and I've never had one fail on me, not from a reputable company. But of course, cheap Chinese ones, these button snaps always break. The material's poorly stitched in this case. It's well done, so it shouldn't be a problem for a long time. But anyway, so besides the sheath system, the one thing I will say as a negative is that it is very, very hard to get in and out. You do have some serrations kind of cut into here, and that's of course to use your thumb to help take the knife out. You need to use that with the sheath, all right? There is a very strong retention with this. You can see, obviously, the kydex is molded to the shape of the top of the scale here on both sides, but because of its size, you can hear how loud this snap is, how secure that is. It's very authoritative. All right, if you're looking for stealthy in the woods, taking it out, it's very quiet, but putting that back in, if you're a hunter or something, that'll probably scare every deer for 10 miles. If you try to do one of these, don't. All right, it's so hard and difficult to get it. You're just gonna swing this knife and you're gonna hurt yourself or someone else. All right, so there's a reason that's there. Use it. Put your thumb up here, get a good strong grip up top. All right, now if you're holding it back here, your thumb can only extend so much. You have no power, right? So hold it up nice and tight, okay, up to the top of the sheath here, and just use your thumb. And if you do that, it's easier to take out. So sheath system, love-hate relationship, totally. But overall, I think it looks pretty good. All right, so on to the important part, the knife. This knife is extremely heavy. People either love it or hate it because of this. This weighs exactly a pound, all right? That's what the specs were on K-Bar's website, and I also checked it on my scale, and it comes out to exactly 16 ounces or 1 pound. That is extremely heavy. The full length on this is 10.5 inches with a 5.25 inch blade. For that size knife, a pound is extremely heavy. And if you look at most of its competition out there, they're not this thick and they're not this heavy. The thickness is exactly 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch stock. This is a 1095 Crovan. And we're gonna talk about what that means because some people are very confused by that. And actually people who have requested this review wanted me to specifically mention what Crovan is. Crovan, basically 1095, we all know 1095 carbon steel, right? Well, the Crovan at the end, or sometimes it'll be noted as 1095 CV, that's just a 1095 with a little extra chromium and a little bit extra vanadium, all right? This steel has been used for many, many years by dozens of companies, including Case and Western Cutlery and all kinds of stuff from many years ago, decades ago. What it is, basically, is Sharon Steel Company. If you Google them and look them up, it's their 170-06 steel. All right, but it's commonly known as 1095 Crovan. For many, many years, K-Bar just called their steel 1095. They omitted the Crovan part of it just for simplicity reasons, right? 1095 done, right? But Crovan's not, it's not a manufacturing name or anything like that. It's not a company, you know, marketing ploy or anything like that. It's actually on spec sheets and worksheets from steel companies and stuff. Crovan exists. So that name is very widely known. It is better than 1095. So that's why K-Bar started using, it's a little bit better than a standard 1095 carbon. So that's why they started using the 1095 Crovan name again, because it does set it apart from other knives that are simply a standard 1095. So that's what it is if you want to look it up. Sharon Steel Company 170-06. You can see all the specs on this particular steel. And when you see it in other companies, it's identical. It's the same steel from the same manufacturer. And it comes in many names. 1095, 1095 Crovan, 1095 CV, sometimes just Crovan. They don't even mention the 1095. So just a little bit of knife history and a little insight into the industry, I guess. Made in the USA. Proudly on the front here, only New York, BK&T for Becker Knife and Tool, and K-Bar. And of course the model on the back, BK2. BK7, also very popular, a lot of people want to see those, and BK9, of course. Maybe in the future, if I had to pick between, I would get a BK9 to try. One of the most used knives for people who like to hang out in the woods, let's say. Very, very popular. But I really want to try the smaller one just to see what it'd be like. I know with the larger one you have a much more, many more benefits, obviously, in chopping and things of that nature. But I want to see what this would do with batoning. Now, this thing was fantastic, batoning through wood. I did a little bit of a demo on video for you guys. I don't always record everything that I do. I love it, but I've shown it before, and even though a lot of times in the comments say like, oh, more testing, I get a lot of messages saying it's boring. Don't be shy. If you have an opinion on something, let me know. If you really want to see more testing stuff, let me know in the comments and the messages, right? I kind of go by what everyone wants to see as a whole. Everyone's going to have different opinions on things, and some people are going to want this, some people are going to want that. But I get a general idea, by the majority vote kind of a thing. So don't be shy. Let me know what you want to see, and I'll certainly show it if other people feel the same way. But anyway, having a very thick stock, you have a flat grind on this. You have very much like a hatchet effect, all right? And I've said this with a lot of thick blades, whether they be folders, fixed blades, whatever. You have a very wide angle on here, okay? So It's not necessarily really good for fine slicing or anything like that, but as far as wood processing, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, because you're wedging. As you're cutting into the material, you're also splitting the material open. All right, so in the case of wood, in batoning, even just like a couple light taps, that sharp edge, and it did come razor sharp out of the box, it's pushing into the wood, but you also have the pressure. The metal itself, it's almost like two hands trying to pull the wood apart. All right, so it definitely processes wood with ease. The obvious downfall to this is the 5 1/4 inch blade. If you're going to be processing large pieces of wood, all right, full logs that have been cut, you can't baton very well because you don't have enough blade sticking out the end. That's where the BK7, BK9 come into play. All right, something like the BK9, much more versatile in the size of wood you're going to be processing. But if you're going to be sticking with things that are like 3 to 4 inches in diameter or less, one of the best knives I've ever used for that purpose. It just, the weight definitely helps in that sense. As far as like being wieldy and carrying it, it is a brick. I mean, a pound on your side, most people's guns don't even weigh a pound these days. So it's not fun to carry for long durations of time. When I go out in the woods and I'll test, knives for an hour, it's no big deal. If I end up carrying it for a long period of time, I go, you know what? If I had this thing all day, it'd be bugging me. I don't want it. I don't want that weight on my side. If you were to pair this with a gun, it would be more balanced. Okay, gun on the right side, maybe the knife on your off side. So it's not just all this weight to one side. Believe it or not, even something like a pound knife can actually cause you back pain. If you carry this on one side of your body constantly, same thing with guns, people who carry guns. This is seldom talked about, but you can get back pain because you're throwing off your balance. So a very minor thing, but can be very important depending on how you want to use this knife if you were interested in getting one. It works great. It's a fantastic knife. Like I said, downfalls to me are the weight. It's good in some senses, but for the most part, the weight I think is one of its downfalls. The handles, extremely ergonomic. This is Grivery, all right, basically a composite plastic, but if you really need to know Grivery specifically, you can see it's bolted on there very simply. You have nuts on the back of some screws, which you'd use some torque, not torque, some Allen keys. That's it, very simple thing. Most people have those in their toolbox. A lot of people who get this, even though this is extremely comfortable, it has a thick handle. If you have small hands, it might be a little bit more difficult to get a good grip. If you have my size hands, you're gonna love this. This thing is perfectly contoured. It just has that hard plastic feel. Some people prefer rubber, some people want paracord. It's total preference, but as far as ergonomics, fantastic. The guard flares out on both sides, on the butt end as well, which is important, especially for like a woods knife. You don't want to lose your grip, okay? Either direction this thing is going to be going, it's very easy to hang on to it. Also very comfortable in the reverse grip if you need to stab into wood, to pry. The tip is also extremely strong, you can see. All right, very thick. Although you do have enough of a point to get into to wood. I did, most of my testing with this was with wood and in the woods. As far as like an EDC fixed blade, forget it. It's too heavy, unnecessary, too thick. You're gonna want something, even if you want something this size, definitely a thinner stock, a leaner grind, things of that nature. Big old lanyard hole, huge. Put a massive manila rope in there if you wanted to. One of the bigger lanyard holes that I've seen. It's got a like hammer pommel, so it's flat. All right, so you could use it to hammer down. I really almost never ever use a knife for hammering. If you do need to do it, it's probably easier, honestly, to hammer over here in the blade. It's just wider, that's all. Obviously, you could get more strength hammering like that, but even with this fat stock, that's a narrow thing. If you need to hit the top of a nail head or something, I don't know. But anyway, that is squared off for hammering. However, it leaves you with two kind of corners, so if you're using this in a defensive situation, I don't know, let's say a bear or something, you could obviously use this to strike with those corners, and that would almost work like a pointed pommel. You just happen to have two of them, just depends on the angle you're coming in. A lot of people, it's very common to remove these scales and have custom scales done, micarta scales, thinner scales, G10, whatever. Tons of people do it. One thing also to mention is a lot of people who customize these, not only do they change the scales, but they take this coating off. They strip it off down to bare metal. I've seen them blued. I've seen People do their own coating that's smoother. It's a textured coating. And although it looks great and it feels good, once you start using it, you realize that this light or fine sandpaper type feel only creates friction, all right, and drag. When you're cutting through something, you don't want that material to be caught, all right? The smoother your blade is, the better it is, or easier it's going to be to cut through stuff, because that material, that medium you're cutting, is you want it to slide and glide off of your blade, not stick to it. You know, you don't want a lot of grip here. And unfortunately, any rough coated blades do offer a lot of friction, which is your enemy when cutting stuff. But in this particular case with wood and all that, it doesn't make a difference. Plus, this coating will eventually strip off anyway. It is hard though. A lot of people purposely take it off because it will resist wear quite a bit. I have a lot of use on this knife, and you can see it's not wearing at all. This is all like dirt and stuff from the you know, bark, stuff like that, sap. It's not actually wear. In fact, the coating didn't come off at all. So just something to note there. Love the knife, just too heavy for me. It's kind of a catch-22. It's fantastic in certain situations, but if you're gonna go for a knife that's this robust, you're selling yourself short, pun intended, because you have a limit on that blade length, okay? So if you're interested in this type of knife, definitely go for the larger BK7 or larger BK9. Personal opinion, you're gonna find that this particular style of knife is gonna better suit you with a larger blade. As far as this particular one, I got this at Knife Hog. Knife Hog, it's cool to expose different websites. Check out Knife Hog's site. They had the cheapest price on this, $64.59. That was cheaper than Amazon even. So, and it's good to get a variety under your belt. So if you're looking for a knife, you can have, all right, I got 10 sites in my favorites, you know, online that I can go to and price, you know, shop and compare prices, and of course get the cheapest deal out there. So cheaper than eBay, cheaper than Amazon. It's fantastic. So definitely check out Knife Hog's website. It's knifehog.com. And I'll put a link in the description box to this particular knife if you want to see, you know, more pictures and stuff of it. But anyway, that's it. That is the BK2 from K-Bar. Fantastic knife. Just, you know, has some limitations, as all knives do, really. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day. I'm hoping it's beautiful out, but I'm hoping to make some time for some more reviews for you. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, enjoy yourself, your family, and the weather if it's nice. Take care, guys.